It was one of those nights when I stood behind the receptionist's desk at the motel I had just bought. I purchased it from an old man who claimed he was selling it because he wanted to retire and spend his remaining years at home in peace. The motel was located in a remote area. When you looked around, all you'd see were deserted lands. No other buildings for miles in either direction. There weren't even many trees out there. You might think I was crazy for buying a motel at the end of the road, surrounded by nothingness. Who'd stay here, right? You're wrong. So wrong. I had stayed at this motel several times before the owner decided to sell it to me. At first glance, it might seem like no one stayed here, especially during the day. But at night, cars, buses, and trucks would pass by. Drivers needed rest, or at least a place to stop for food or drink. With no other establishments around for miles, this motel was their only option. It was a good business. It ran as smoothly as I'd hoped. Until 1 month later, a young woman, probably in her 20s, walked into the motel. She looked lost and disoriented. She didn't carry any baggage, and judging by her appearance, she seems to have been walking for miles before stumbling upon the place. "Are you okay, miss?" I asked, genuinely concerned. I don't know. I'm not sure," she replied. I honestly didn't know how to respond to that. "Is there a room available?" she asked. "As a matter of fact, yes, I have plenty." "Can I have one at the back?" "Your wish is my command," I said as I handed her the key. Hours later, a man dressed in a black suit and wearing a black hat that nearly covered his eyes entered the motel. He looked like a businessman, or maybe a traveling salesman. "Can I have one room at the back?" he asked in a deep, heavy voice. "Sure," I replied, handing him a key. Something about him felt off, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was. I brushed it off and went back to my desk. I was dozing off when a loud, agonized scream jolted me awake. It came from the back of the motel, where the young woman was staying. "Miss? Miss, are you okay?" I shouted as I knocked on her door. No response. I knocked again. "Miss?" Still no response. The scream I'd heard earlier had been blood-curdling. I couldn't ignore it. Grabbing a spare key, I unlocked her door and stepped inside. The room was empty. It looked as though no one had ever been there. My mind raced. Then I remembered all the guests that night had been regulars, except for the lost young woman and the man in the black suit. I ran to the man's room and knocked. No answer. Using my spare key again, I unlocked his door. Empty, as if no one had ever been there. After searching the entire motel and finding nothing, I had no choice but to let it go. For the next few weeks, everything returned to normal. Most of the guests were regulars, with a few new ones, usually truck drivers or travelers passing through. No sign of the lost woman, no sign of the man in the suit. Then, one night, the door to the motel opened, and a young lady walked in. She looked eerily similar to the first lost woman, not in appearance, but in her demeanor. She too seemed lost and disoriented. I had a bad feeling. Less than an hour after she went to her room, another guest entered. An old woman with gray hair, dressed in a black suit. Two different set of people, somehow eerily looked alike with each other, with their unsettling similarities. I handed the old woman in the black suit a key to one of the rooms at the back, silently hoping the night would pass without incident. But I was wrong. An hour later, I heard another scream, a woman's scream, loud and filled with pain, coming from the back. Just like before, I rushed to the young woman's room and unlocked it with my spare key. Empty. I hurried to the old woman's room and opened it. Empty. I had no idea what the hell had happened. Was it happened some other time before I bought the motel from the previous owner? I didn't like disturbing an old man who was enjoying his rest at night, but this could affect the business. If he knew something about it, he had some explaining to do. "Oh," the old man who previously owned the motel muttered, "I haven't told you about it?" "Nope," I replied. "Well, this happened several times before, more than I could count," he started, "but our regular customers had used to it. Apart from the screaming and the 2 guests being missing, nothing else had happened." "Well, it's true," I said, "but what happened, though?" "The motel, young man," he explained, "is located at the center of 2 worlds, the world of the living and the world of the dead." I was stunned. "Is that supposed to be a joke?" "No, it's not," he said firmly. "And how does this explain the strange occurrences?"
"The people you see entering the motel, those who seem lost and disoriented, they're lost souls, ghosts if you prefer. They've run away from the afterlife, trying to find a way back to the world of the living," the old man explained. "There was no way of getting back to life once you're dead, of course," he continued. "But the motel is like half spiritual world, located at the very center of both worlds. These wandering souls didn't realize they were dead. They saw a motel and they entered, looking for a place to rest." "And the people in suits? The screaming?" I asked impatiently. "The people in suits," he continued, "are deaths." "Deaths? Plural?" "Yes, deaths. You didn't think there was just one, did you? There are many. They come here to find the runaway souls and drag them back to the afterlife." "So, the screams I heard," I murmured. "It's the scream of the runaway souls being dragged back by force to the afterlife." "Okay, Mr. Landorf," I said, exasperated. "From what I understand, I get that this thing happened on its own. There's nothing we could do about it." "Very true, but the screams, Mr. Landorf, they were loud and painful. Everyone at the motel could hear them. I could lose customers." "The motel's regular customers already got used to it." Mr. Landorf brushed my thought off. "Apart from the screams, nothing else had happened, right? And it was just 1 screams per night, so..." This old man started to sound like he took things way too lightly. "Yeah, he got used to it, I get it. But how about new customers, Mr. Landorf? I got plenty of new customers too," I asked, worried. "You have 2 things to try. First, inform the new customers when they arrive at the motel to ignore any screams they hear. The motel is located in a deserted area. It's not uncommon for weird things to happen." "I'm not sure I like the first option, but carry on," I said. "Second," he proceeded, "when the lost, wandering souls ask for a room, give them a room at the front, not at the back, the closest to the lobby." I frowned. Why? Wouldn't it just make things worse? More customers would hear the screams. "Have you ever seen the runaway souls entering the motel from the back?" No. It's because half of the motel that stands on the spiritual world is the front side, not the back. You heard the screams because the souls were dragged from the living world at the back side of the motel to the dead world at the front. Putting the runaway souls in the front room, Mr. Landorf concluded, would prevent their screaming from being heard when they are dragged back to the afterlife by deaths, because the afterlife is at the front. Now that was relieving. Kind of.